JB here, JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Let me just fix this for a second. Monday, September 29th, 3:24 in this fine afternoon. Talk really quick about the market, some names I'm looking at, go from there. Apologies about this morning. Having audio issues the last 3 days. Just got to fix that up. But anyway, take a look at the markets today. Pretty much, I wouldn't say flat as a pancake, but slightly in the green here, mixed. SPY off the highs of the day, just came down and tested flat at about 310, and then we're just chopping around here. Somewhat like an uneventful day, although despite the uneventful day, a lot of big movers, especially the cannabis names. Then you have Robinhood up 10%. You also have some other names that are going to benefit from being able to do direct to buy or purchase from ChatGPT, right? The Etsy's and the Shopify's of the world. I don't know how material that is to their numbers, but anyway, all right. So rants for other days on those, but nothing really in regards to the market here. Some decent, the tight trading range. I guess it's 0.3% trading range. So decent support, no crazy swings, and then on the heels of the PCE data Friday, and then the stronger economic data midweek. I think good signs here. And it's funny, you look at the headlines, and the headlines are all about the government shutdown. Oh no, it's looming, huge market impacts. But to me, it's like just again how they fill this news vacuum with these events that are going to get you to click, right? No one's going to click if they say, oh, the market is going to be flat this week heading into the jobs report on Friday. Nobody wants to read that, right? But if you have an article that says government shutdown is looming, here's what it means for the markets, and all that, then people click on it. And I think the last government shutdown for a substantial day, well, 2018, I think was 2 days. 2013, there was like a 10-day shutdown. Uh, at the end of the day, a lot of these times it's nothing. And I mean, the last looming government shutdown, everybody was freaking out. It was during the holidays. What does that mean for TSA agents and people? And then it all just gets resolved. And typically, a lot of this stuff gets resolved before it comes to fruition, or the worst case scenarios. And you just hope this gets resolved somewhat. And then we'll move on to the next possible market headwind. But the big data piece this week, Friday's jobs report. I was trying to actually, I don't have the links for the articles, but after, I mean, the big benchmark revisions for the year. I mean, what, 800,000 jobs revised. Then you have, Fed Chair Powell using that as pretty much his to rationalize cutting rates. That was his major catalyst, right? It wasn't really about the economy. It was about jobs. So if you don't want to see a hotter than expected jobs number, you don't want to see 200,000 jobs created. I think the estimates now are under 100,000. I don't know if it's 30,000 somewhere in there, jobs created, unemployment rate staying somewhat flat. So I think, and you hate to see a negative read or any of that, but it would, to me, that would kind of ease concerns that the Fed might not cut rates again this year. And estimates now, another rate cut at the next meeting, and then the last meeting of the year in December, there'll be a rate cut. So that's kind of like baked into the market. I think any surprises obviously can cause some issue with the market. I don't think that's going to happen. All right. So that's kind of the overall market. Also of note today, and was like similar to last week, the VIX. And the VIX was creeping up all last week. And then boom, PC data on Friday, markets rally, and the VIX goes back below the levels at the start of the week. So maybe I shouldn't be looking at it just as close as I have been, but it just seems like every time the market's a little lackluster, that VIX just kind of creeps up. But on the flip side, yields are lower again today. So, all right, so that's quick on the overall markets here. Again, there's not much in the way of catalyst. Tomorrow after the close is Nike. I had Nike on a possible watch for earnings premium build into earnings a couple weeks ago. And then it's just been, I don't know if I have the chart up here, but it's just been melting back under $70. I'm trying to find some calls to play even just for premium build tomorrow, but the 80 strikes are expensive on the weeklies. I need to go out to the October 17th, and those are expensive. So to me, it doesn't make sense, at least for me on a risk reward basis, to try and trade actually not 40 cents for the $80 strikes, but stock's at $70, 69 and change. So ah, I'll pass on that one. All right, so that's Nike. They report, and then end of the third quarter. That's Tuesday. Tomorrow's the last day of the trading quarter, and then we start getting into the back half, and then we'll get to earnings, right? Well, the last quarter of 2025. Just remarkable stuff. All right, so that's individual overall markets. Now, quick on individual names. First, I'll just talk about Duolingo, right? So, Duolingo did what the market likes to do, right? Have those weekly strikes. It waits all the way till Friday to spike, and it doesn't wait. Duolingo didn't wait till Friday at the open. It waited till Friday at 12:30 to go from 316 and then ramp all the way into the past 325 and beyond. I was doing a rant, and sure enough, you got to worry about the calls closing into money. So Thankfully, I was able to lock some of those in. I had already locked some in for some profits and covered costs, but I didn't think, well, I was hopeful, but I didn't think it was going to go all the way over 325. And then I didn't want to be in a spot where Duolingo continues to rally today and then just goes on a monster tear. And I keep saying at some point, I think this is going to go on some kind of monster bounce. Um, I didn't have a chance to do it on the rant this morning, but I did have it on the watch list. Whether you want to call this an inverted head and shoulders, or you want, let's see if I can. See, I'm having issues again. Sorry, folks. Whether you want to call this an inverted head and shoulders, or you want to call this a W bottom, whatever you want to call it. To me, it looks like an attractive setup. You've had the pull, then all the way up to the middle section. Whether you want to call that the upside down head and shoulders, whatever you want to call it. Then we have resistance again. Found the bottom, similar right at that left shoulder. Again, whatever you want to call it, and then the bounce. And now you see it breaking through that neckline, right? Just a good spot here. I think 325 was the key spot. So I didn't want to be in a spot where there's follow through today from Friday. So I did get some calls into today. The thing with Duolingo, again, the premiums are expensive. The stocks at 325, the 360s were like 175 by $2 on Friday at the end of the day. So I went and got those. I was looking for the 355s. Those are too expensive. I figured the higher strikes, if it didn't have any follow through, those would get destroyed on the premium side. So then today it opens, and then right off the bat it finds pressure, and all the way down to hit three. Sorry, folks. Yeah, all the way down to 315, right at the open. Right, just it's like no one was bidding on the stock, and then quick reversal, and then found some support, and then went back into the 330s, then all the way up to 336, and so my calls were up 50%. But I wasn't buying those calls to trade for 50%. I was buying to lock submitted for 100% and ride the rest, and then it fizzled. And then once it got down to 330, I didn't want to be in a spot where those premiums just got destroyed. If there's like another pull at the open tomorrow, those calls are going to be, and not only that, the spreads are wide. So even to try and get out makes it difficult. So I closed the calls out for a small loss. I'll continue to look for opportunities to trade that one, but I think very attractive setup. And if it continues to go, I think 375 is like, I think that comes quick. It's not like it's going to take a couple days. I think it's going to take maybe a day and a half session, right? It'll be up 5% one day and then 4% the next morning, and boom. So if that's the case, and I think that's the possible outcome, the call is going to, or the risk, well, the reward for the risk is there. So that's why I continue to look for opportunities in that, which I'll continue to do. So that's Duolingo. And then just earlier, I got XYZ calls. I haven't traded XYZ in quite some time. I always thought it's a great story, and it has the backstory of crypto, which when a day like today, when Bitcoin's up 4%, I don't know if it's still up 4%, and you see some of these other names going, it's like one of those names I think plays like catch up. So then you start looking at the chart, and again, I don't know why I don't have my chart up here. There it is. And then you look at a chart, and it's at some key areas, right? The 50-day moving average is right there at 76.49. It has a tight Bollinger Band set up, and tight Bollies mean it's been a prolonged or extended period of bulls and bears fighting for position in tight ranges. And then once those Bollinger Bands get really tight, one of those sides wins out, and then the stock takes off. Of course, I'm biased to the upside. I think the breakout to the upside, I think it happens relatively quickly. I was looking at some of the premiums. I'm like, wow, the 80s. Typically, when I tried to trade XYZ or Square back in the day, the premiums, the $80 strikes on a Monday, if they expired Friday, would be like 50 or 60 or 70 cents based on it being here in the high 75. So I thought great risk reward, went and got some lottos. I'll continue to hold those into tomorrow, pending any craziness, but really like to set up here. So that's XYZ. I don't have my other charts, Duolingo. Oh, and then another name I was watching, TKO. So if you're watching TV over the weekend or football games or what have you, always have the 60 minutes commercials, right? And they always catch my eye. Sometimes they have some great pieces. And a lot of times it's like one time it was NVIDIA. There's a lot of tech headlines. And then sometimes you see these tech headlines, and Netflix was on one time. The corresponding stock rallies the next day. So I was kind of kicking myself. You see Dana White from UFC was getting interviewed. I didn't actually watch the clip, but I'm like, TKO is going to run today. So kind of kicking myself for not adding strikes at the open. The issue with TKO, only monthly strikes, $5 increments makes it tough to trade on a risk reward basis. The 220s looked interesting earlier. I think they were 90 cents. Then they were $1.05. Let's see where they are now. It's such a great story. And the thing is, they have WWE, right? So it's a bundle, and they have other parts of the business, not just those two. But it's such a popular business, and that trend in that area in regards to I wouldn't say boxing back in the day, and I've done these rants on TKO back a couple 6 6 to 12 months ago. I'm not comparing UFC to boxing, but back in the day, boxing, I thought, in my opinion, used to be a much more exciting sport, or much more viewed. Just I don't know if it's because the heavyweights back in the day. Obviously the Mike Tysons, George Foreman. But anyway, you take a look at TKO, and then you look at the UFC side and WWE. It's like, number one, it's a great match, and then number two, it's like the Netflix has, I think it's, and I'm not a big wrestling fan, but it's like the number one watched show every Monday when it comes out on Netflix. I think there's just a lot of things to like about the company, and every time I look at the chart, I'm like, oh, it didn't look attractive. And then I was looking this morning, I'm like, wow, this looks interesting as well. Type Bullies setting up new all-time highs possible, and it was all the way up to 210 at the start of September. I'm like, God, if it breaks that, it's off to the races. So not going to add anything here end of day. Just some that I continue to watch on the watch list. The 220s are dollar by $1.40. And I was wrong. They're not $5 increments. They're $10 increments. So for me to try and trade this, maybe the 230s, the Octobers. So definitely a name I'll revisit tomorrow. Other names here, CGC, the cannabis names. I'm trying to see where the link was, but supposedly the Department of Justice requesting extension on the marijuana rescheduling. But that news can hit any time. Also, there was I don't know if Trump posted some link over the weekend around regards to cannabis and helping dementia or senior citizens, or something to that effect. So I don't know if that's the reason some of these names are rallying. But I mean, take a look at Tilray today. I mean, I was watching, it was 80 cents, then 90 cents, then $1. Then a couple weeks ago, it's $1.20. I'm like, oh, it's higher than CGC, $1.50. And here it is at 177. It's up 54% today. And I'm just kicking myself because I'm like, CGC is not rallying in lockstep with it. So I don't know if that means there's an opportunity. I should be adding CGC calls. But I still holding some strikes there on CGC. And then IIPR, similar to CGC, it's barely in the green. So is it going to play catch up too? The thing with IIPR, they have their ex-divvy dates tomorrow. So, I close my calls out. At some point, I'll look to revisit. Maybe I'll revisit it tomorrow. Other disappointing names today's Cardlytics down 7%. 7% sounds like a lot, but the whole context of the recent move with the stock, it's actually a good thing. So we'll see if it holds up here today. I still think that's going to trade north of $3 again in the coming days. And then I put the chart up. I don't know if I have it up here, but I think eventually it's going to lose its penny stock status, right? Under $5, technically it's a penny stock. GameStop sitting here at $27 all day. Kind of boring to watch this one. Serve Robotics still trading around that 12 handle. Maybe this is the week it finally, once it gets going, instead of selling off and reversing course $2, it holds the gains off to the races. There's also another eVault electric vehicle takeoff and landing company IPOing. I don't know if that's going to be bullish for Joby, but Joby's another. I still have the October 20s, and every time I look to get in, I'm like, oh, near $17 last week. I was like, oh, I missed it. Let me wait for a pullback, and then it pulls back to 16, and then it doesn't stop, and then pulls back down to 15. Now it's bouncing. Bounce today, then back down to flat. So instead of trying to time this, I'll just continue to be patient. I think that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.